You know, in 1968, we were all just sort of flummoxed. Johnson saying, "I'm giving up office, I'm not going to run again." Then the next thing you knew, Martin Luther King was killed. Robert F. Kennedy, who was a great follower of Martin Luther King, was killed. It was always sort of like, what's next? We were vacillating between shock, sometimes tears, and then the convention was coming to Chicago. I don't think anyone realized, as somebody said, the whole world would be watching Chicago at that time.
Will the convention be, will the sergeant at arms enforce order in the convention?
Chicago 1968 was just street reporting, going to the morgue, going to cover North Boys Court and having sandwich with the judge, going to the Chicago Police Department, going to the Federal Building. You were sort of trained in each segment, and then you turned in your stories, which were not bylined, and they were fed to the Tribune, the Daily News, the Chicago Sun-Times, the radio stations, all over the place. And there was a circus going on. It was a fun circus, a parade, like I said, a kaleidoscope of all these people coming into town. You were watching them taunt the police. It was just unbelievable. I mean, it was just like they were asking for it. And there was a certain amount of restraint for a long time. The convention I was so lucky to have gotten in, but quite frankly, every night of that convention was drama. I don't remember having a ticket, by the way. This is all that was required to get into the convention floor, and you stuck it into a little tiny metal box. I don't recall having one of these, but this was sent to me later by somebody who had been there. I was only there once that I recall. The rest of the time, I basically was in the park. When I went to the Conrad Hilton, there was no rioting going on at that time. But the thing that I found fascinating is Buckingham Fountain, that's not far away. There was so much tear gas at that time. You could smell it, but they were using Buckingham Fountain's water, the protesters were, to douse their eyes. It was sort of like a safe zone because they couldn't see. I mean, it really did get bad. But most of that I saw on television. You know, those kids wanted to riot during 1968. I mean, it was pretty obvious that's what they wanted to do. They were angry, and yes, they wanted the war to end, and yes, it was a bad time. But at the same token, look what's going on now. We have a president that was almost assassinated. There are protesters by the thousands coming here. How lucky we were to be around when news was everywhere. 68, yeah, it was a wild time, just such a wild time.